look at some of the truly fantastic coins that were on offer at the recent Regency 52 rare coin auction. First off is a modern pattern, well, not so much a pattern as a fantasy design or even a miniature medal, if you will. You see, the mint began striking these Martha Washington pattern coins in 1965 as a way to test new or proposed metallic compositions. They do not have a denomination or the regular mottos or really anything that identifies it as a US mint coin. They do, however, conform to the size of the denomination being tested. In this case, it was a test for the new copper-plated zinc core pennies due to replace the 95% copper pennies during 1982. A spectacular find graded by PCGS as MS64 red, and at auction, this unique piece of numismatic history was able to raise $4,700. What we know today as the shield nickel was first introduced in 1866, but leading up to that, there were several patterns produced in anticipation of the event. Several designs were floated at the mint, including one featuring former President George Washington, an example of which was on offer, one of only approximately 10 to perhaps 12 examples known, graded as PCGS Proof 66 Cameo that sold on its turn for $10,281. And seeing as how it had barely been a year since Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865, a variation honoring Lincoln was also proposed. This is the only 19th century pattern to feature Lincoln's portrait, and it would be another 43 years before the Lincoln penny would be released. Graded here by PCGS as Proof 64 Red Brown, the closing price at auction for this piece was $29,375. The Morgan half-dollar patterns hold a special fascination, especially for those who have an affinity or appreciation for the Morgan dollar series. The obverse is virtually identical to that of the regular dollar that we all know, only on a much smaller scale to fit the half-dollar planchet. The reverse maintains the perched eagle motif, but an alternate design is deployed instead on this piece. Familiar, but still not quite the same. This one is one of a handful, perhaps 8 to 12 estimated examples that exist of this pattern coin, struck here in copper. The current example is authenticated by PCGS as Proof 66 Red Brown, and at auction it was sold for $36,425. The Overton 113 A-type variety is one of the more interesting varieties for the 1795 flowing hair half-dollar, and that coin does have an abundance of varieties. Fortunately, this one is very easily identifiable. It is hallmarked by the overstamped A in States, where the die sinker originally spelled States with 2 E's instead of an A and an E, and then simply overpunch the A to reflect the correct spelling, making no effort whatsoever to conceal the mistake at all. Furthermore, there is a defect on the obverse that leaves a rather distinctive lump between the 5 of the date and the last star immediately below Liberty's bust truncation. And although it is not particularly clear on this present example, there is also a rather distinctive die crack running along stars 12 through 15 as well, graded as MS62 by PCGS. This fantastic high-grade example of a very sought-after variety was sold at auction for $67,562. Seldomly will you ever encounter an example of a cap-bust half-dollar coin that has been so sharply struck and then so impeccably preserved as this 1823 example. It is the finest known example of the Overton 111A die marriage, and there are only 2 coins graded, a single grade point finer at NGC, with none finer at PCGS for the date overall. From the Dale Friend collection, this PCGS MS66 gem beauty of a coin with CAC approval atop managed to raise $70,500 at auction. At a comparably small mintage of 1,120 coins for the 1854 Dahlonega gold $3 Indian princess coin means that it is already a fairly rare coin to start out with. But where the coin's true appeal lies is in the fact that it is the only issue of this denomination from the Dahlonega mint whatsoever. Add to that the fact that most coins were issued and circulated at the time, so a coin surviving in a grade of PCGS AU55 is a coveted prize indeed. A prize that was sold at auction for the princely sum of $79,312. In terms of 1894 Barber half-dollar coins, the present example is simply peerless, with possibly only the proof-like prior coin and the Duco example even coming anywhere close. The reason for this is quite simple. John Clapp acquired this coin directly from the New Orleans Mint in November of 1894 and placed it directly in his personal collection. From him, it then passed to Louis Eliasberg Sr. in 1942 and was then only sold to the Larry Miller collection in 1997. A stunning conditional rarity with a complete and unbroken provenance from the coining press all the way to today, where it is housed in a PCGS slab graded as MS68 and sold at auction for $82,250. In case you are not overly familiar with the Lincoln Cent series, it might be easy to overlook just how impressive this present 1926 S wheat penny truly is. Because of its status as a semi-key date, the coin has been widely hoarded starting in the 1940s onwards. Because of this, low-grade examples are actually fairly easy to obtain today, at a slight premium, of course. Gem-level coins, however, are a completely different story, as survivors are few and far in between. Furthermore, the issue is notorious for suffering from soft strikes and coins with particularly poor details having exited the mint. So this example, graded by PCGS at MS65 red with a good strike to boot, at least on the obverse, that is the very definition of a conditional rarity. When its turn came at auction, it managed to raise $99,875. The Indian Princess Gold $3 coin is an often overlooked series, and it seems that, at least initially, the 1877 issue was neglected by collectors especially. There are precious few mint state examples known. The coin is today the rarest of the collectible dates, more so even than the 54D and even the Close 3's 1873 example, both of which have significantly smaller original mintage figures. The current example was once in the Pogue collection and is today graded by PCGS as MS64+. When it passed over the auctioneer's block, it managed to raise $102,812 at auction. The 1892 Barber half-dollar from the New Orleans Mint is up next, but this is the more elusive micro O variety where the O mint mark was punched in with an unusually small O mint mark. This extremely popular red book listed variety was known to collectors almost right from the beginning, as Augustus Heaton already made note of this coin in his seminal treatise on mint marks in 1893. Here we have the Eliasberg specimen, an absolutely pristine example of the issue, graded by PCGS as MS68, and at auction it sold for $199,750. 1793 would be the first year of production for the large cent, and in that year, no less than 3 major design variety types would be released. First, there is the chain cent, followed swiftly by the reef cent, both named for their respective reverse designs and sharing a common flowing hair design on the obverse. That would then be followed by the flowing hair obverse being usurped by the Liberty cap obverse that we see here. This particular coin is the S14 die variety, known primarily for the diagonal die crack that completely transects the entire coin on the obverse, and would have almost certainly have led to a catastrophic die failure soon afterwards, which would account for the extreme rarity of this particular die marriage today. Graded by PCGS as AU 50+, with green CAC approval, it is ranked as second finest for this type and sold at auction for $352,500. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, stay safe, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.